Hello.
Hello, greetings.
Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Oh, you can't do.
to Roleplay. I can hear you. Wait, no, I can hear you guys. Hi.
Hi.
Oh,
Hey,
hi.
okay.
Well, today we are joined by Eagle, Kate, and Nidas. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves, but I'll just briefly say, everyone, welcome to Roleplay Podcast. Today we are covering business RP. It's gonna be really exciting, and probably some other stuff. We were supposed to cover NoPixel Classic when John the Broski was on, and he and I ended up talking about ERP for like 30 minutes. So, not saying that we all will do that,
Yikes.
but I was actually just telling my chat, yes, at one point, one of my episodes, I want to like bring on like, I don't know like who, but maybe like OnlyFans creators, and we'll do like a roleplay podcast. Like we'll talk about like bedroom roleplay. That way I can cover all my bases of like the different kinds of roleplay, you know? And then
I
we
think
can
that's
do
a
like,
great idea, honestly.
yeah. And then we can do like Red Dead Redemption another day. Anyways, if you guys would like introduce yourselves, shout out your channels. This is why I need Kyle, by the way.
Does he
Why?
do that?
Because he like
No,
directs people.
Kyle keeps me in check. Anyways,
Oh, we're not keeping you in check. We want you out of check.
fuck. All right, well, go ahead and introduce yourselves to the podcast and tell us about yourselves.
Eagle, go first.
Oh, okay. Hi. I play Eve Summers on NoPixel. My roleplay experience has only been 3.0. I live in South Africa. Um, I am at the mercy of solar power due to me almost never having electricity. So very glad that I am here today. And yeah, you can find me at Eagle Eye.
Clean energy,
I'll
though.
go.
That's good. We like that.
True.
Yeah, we had a switch really early on, or else I would never have power. And we also installed a water tank system last week.
That's
Oh,
big.
really?
That's kind of crazy. I didn't know. Wow. Okay, solar powered. Yeah.
Do you know much about Africa's load shedding, Blau?
No. Tell me.
Oh, they just lose power constantly. They're
Yeah,
just like, oh, we don't have enough power. We're gonna shut it off for everybody.
yeah, so basically the government has put us in sections where basically when I don't have power, the neighborhood over has power, and we are basically on constant load shedding stage 6. So that means that we basically have 10 hours of the day where we don't have power.
That's kind of. And so, do you solve this via having solar panels, or like what's the?
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Investing
And they get told,
in that, yeah.
like, yeah, and they get told, like, okay, you guys don't have power between now and this hour and this hour. So prepare yourselves, I guess.
Yeah, and
That's
it's not
crazy.
gonna get any better. It's just like
Well,
how it's gonna be, yeah.
We're getting
mean-
intergalactic solar panels by 2025, so you're chilling.
Yeah. Wait. Well, so now I'm on that. I'm just curious. Like, do you have to change up plans in RP because of that? Because you're like, well, like I was gonna be doing this today in RP, but turns out my power's gonna be out then. Like,
I used to do that, but our system is luckily good enough that it carries my PC through the times that we don't have power. It also depends on if it's a rainy day, if it's sunny or not. So yeah, it's sometimes I had to tell Chad, well, guys, I might lose power. I probably only have it for an hour, so if everything goes dead, I don't have power. So yeah.
damn.
There's been times where Eve has just like disappeared, and we'd be like, where did Eve go? And then I'll get an email, and just be like, no power. Oh, okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So still doing role play despite those challenges. Okay. All right, Kate. What do you have? I have to deal with LA internet, so there's. Okay, that's not nearly as bad. I realize.
That's really not bad at all. I'll introduce myself. My name's Kate. I play Nancy Drew on NoPixel. Like Eagle, my only experience with roleplay is 3.0. And most of that has been alongside Nidas and Eagle and Buddha, obviously, which has been great. My Twitch stream is /Kate, and I'm in Western Canada.
Okay. And lastly, also I just want to briefly say that's kind of cool. 3 of us are all 3.0 frogs. We're all new to this because I started in 3.0 as well.
Oh, you too?
Yep.
I thought you were around in 2.0.
Oh no.
Wow.
I joined from there was a Rust server. If you guys know, everyone called it the OTV Rust server, but it was actually like Abe's Rust server, and it was right before the launch of 3.0. And I guess I role played on that, or just like messed around on that. And a lot of NoPixel people, I guess, found it and were invited and came in on it. And Space Boy and Seer were the 2 who told me to try GTA RP. And then I think I started on the very first day of 3.0.
Wow.
So,
You know what? Eve and Nancy actually came to the city on the same. Eve, Penny, and Nancy all came to the city on the same day.
wait, really? How far into 3.0 was that?
Like
A
March
month, I think.
24th, I think.
Yeah, it was a month.
Yeah, it's like just over a month after. So our state IDs are all really close together because it was all like the same 24 hours that we all made our characters.
Oh, okay. And now and our last person is an OG of the roleplay scene. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Sir Nidas.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I'm Nidas. I'm based in Sweden. I've been roleplaying since Jesus Christ, 2011. I think it's been a while, man.
What?
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
through a lot of different platforms and stuff. I met Coil in, I think, December of 2014, and started roleplaying with him, and kind of follow the whole process. Like I've kind of seen it from the beginning. There's a couple of people that were around a bit before me, but I've kind of been there from the beginning. I play a multitude of characters. I kind of have this thing where I'll play like one character at a time, so I don't really mix that much. But I have a couple of characters that I play. My most known character would be Leslie, I think, at this point. But I have Rat Boy, I have Crypt for Coin, which is like a meme senator, I guess. I have Ingvar, which is a cop, a Swedish cop. I have Break Manchest, who's a guy that eats metal. It's a bunch of different characters. And yeah, I mean, the topic of the discussion, I guess, is business roleplay. And I've been doing business roleplay before business roleplay existed. I've been doing that since the first iteration of Arma. So not NoPixel Arma, not Critical Gaming Arma, but A3L Arma, the first Arma in 2014. I started doing business roleplay.
Well, and maybe this is a good way to sort of like, start us off. And I mean, this will be mostly a Nidas question, but I mean, Kate, Eagle, you guys are welcome to jump in. I am curious, like where do you guys feel like you each, we'll start with Nidas and then you guys can answer it. Where did you guys first start doing business role play? And like, what was, if you reflected now, you'd be like, oh, I was doing business RP here. I feel like that's like different than when you called it business RP. Does that make sense? Like, when did you first start doing it, even if you didn't realize you were doing it?
I started doing business RP in Arma, but then I did a law firm where I practiced law, and I was a kid back then. I was like, I think 16 maybe. It's a long time ago. And I had a law firm, but it was more like an organization, not really a business per se, but it was very close to a real world business, you could say. I think my first like official business RP thing was when I think it was in 1.0. There was a point in time where Kyle actually had the Vanilla Unicorns, Alabaster Slim, and he was running the business. It was very different from how businesses are ran now. I think a lot of things have helped to set the meta of how a business is run, and I think we have attributed a lot to that as Cerberus. Not to say that we did all the polling, but some of it for sure. But back then it was very different. So the way Kyle would run it is he was the boss of the Vanilla Unicorn, and he would do all the day-to-day stuff, make sure the organization is running and stuff like that. And then he hired Leslie on as, I believe it was chief executive of espionage, and it was more so a role to survey other businesses and make sure nobody got into our shit type thing. And that's when I really started doing like the business aspect of said business. And I did that because nobody else was doing business roleplay back then. There were some people that said they were, business gods or whatever, but that was mostly that they would go to meetings and set up deals with people, but they didn't really do like what we call business roleplay today. My first time doing what I would say today is like actual business RP is what I would do is I had I had an email. It's still up. It's leslie.biz69@gmail.com, I believe. And it was
You had an
Leslie's
actual
personal
email.
email.
Nice.
Yeah, it's Leslie's personal email, and I would have viewers send in business emails to Leslie, and I would answer them inside the vanilla unicorn. I would put on the Gmail overlay onto the computer in game, and then I would answer their emails and have like business emails for like an hour or two every day. And there was like this ongoing bit with this like one business guy called King Bill Watongo that would give me like sayings, like the classic like, uh, remember Leslie, do not stare at a tree waiting for a nut. And then I would take those like phrases made by these creative RP viewers and I would utilize them in RP to conduct business. And that was a good bit. And I think that was the first time when I did real business RP. And I kind of created that out of thin air by utilizing my viewer base to do that.
I had no idea about that. That is
Same.
sick.
That is so cool.
It's
Mhm.
actually nice hearing the story behind that because like Leslie always mentions like that guy,
King
and then it's
Bill,
like
Yeah.
with Tonga, and then it's like I'm like what is he talking about?
yeah, my old
So
business
much
partner.
of what
Yeah.
Leslie says, I'm just like, what the fuck is he talking about? But at the same time, wow.
Yeah, it's always
That's
grounded in
so
something.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course it is.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Kate, Eagle. I mean, and by the way, you guys are welcome to just go off on tangents, talk about whatever. I only do questions when if I have stuff pre-written down, but you guys are welcome to just go off on tangents, talk about anything. But I am curious. So, yeah, Eagle, Kate, what was your guys' first venture into business RP where you're like, oh, this is business RP?
I actually remember it was completely accidental, and it was we wanted to own the racetrack behind the casino. So we set up just like an event. It was like a jousting event or a demolition derby or a race. I can't remember at this point. But it turned into a live business proposal, which we were not expecting. And that's actually the same day that I met Lang for the first time. And I think that was like 3 weeks after I joined the server. And somebody came onto the track and drove onto the track and tried to ruin our event, and Lang shot him point blank and screamed at him and was like, "Don't fuck up events." And that is how I met Lang. And from there, he was like, "Hey, great event. Would you like to work on something with us?" And it kind of snowballed into it was a very accidental happenstance meeting, but it snowballed into, "Do you want to work with us?" Which then kind of happened into Cerberus down the line. But this like little event that we were just trying to do because we were bored one day ended up being the introduction to Lang and to Cerberus and to Leslie and everything that we ended up doing down the road.
I see. I didn't. I'm learning all these origin stories. I didn't even know that. I mean,
Yeah, he shot some guy in front of the mayor and then dumped him in the pond at the back of the track and was just like, "You're a dumb fuck. Never do this again."
yeah. All right. That's sounds pretty.
Sounds like Lang.
Yep. Sounds like Lang.
Yeah.
What about
Yep.
what about you, Eagle?
Eve went for an interview for the position of cultivator for Rooster's Reef. And I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. So Eve rented the little Fudo and she drove all the way to the nudist colony. I had no idea where to go. And I made it up there. And that's actually the first time I think I met Harry, Dewey, Lando was there, Barry was there. All of them were just in underwear. And they were just living their Kekona lives. And I was having a serious interview to be the cultivator for the weed business. So that's where I got my start. And then that also transpired into running the dispensary at the farmers market and then building the business from there.
Yeah, I remember you doing stuff at the farmers market. That's actually I miss both the farmers market and then actually the Dean World Pier. I remember like
Same.
the stalls and setup on that were sick. I mean,
I would love there to be a way to bring that back on like a Sunday market kind of thing. Now that we have all the storefronts, it would be cool to be able to gather everybody into one place and have everybody bring down some of their products to sell in like a Sunday farmers market type vibe.
yeah,
I would love that.
I think that'd be incredible. And I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, like what sorts of things do you guys think? Because I feel like, okay, NoPixel 3.0, and again, Nidas, you can correct me because you know a lot of like the 2.0, maybe the 1.0 scene. But I really feel like one of the things that separated 3.0 from the previous version of NoPixel, and also what probably separates it from a lot of other roleplay servers, has been the business RP. It feels like, something that was just uniquely done and done in a really good way. What are sort of like what do you guys think are kind of like some of the highlights or sort of the cornerstones of business RP on NoPixel that has made it so strong?
That's a good question.
A really good question.
Um, I think here's the thing. It's a multiple parted question, right? Like I think you need creative driving force in order to have something like this happen, and then you need dev support for that creative driving force. And I think we saw an uptick in that in 3.0 specifically. There was a lot of creative driving force behind business RP, and the people that were, the only reason I could do business RP, and I think one of the reasons why Cerberus even existed was because, um, you know, Dean Lang and I came together and we all had whitelists, which made it so that, okay, we were in a position where we made more money inherently than other people. And if you make money, then business RP is going to happen. Business RP only exists if there's a monetary difference that is, that exists in general. Otherwise, there is no hook. And if you don't have a hook, then people aren't going to want to do things for you. It's almost like a quest giver type relation, I think. But if you have creative people that have in RP this monetary situation where they have more money than other people and they're willing to distribute that money appropriately, then business RP will come. And then dev support to help alleviate that also helps. And I think that kind of, perfect storm or catalyst with dev support and creative people pushing that, and also the monetary resources in game, really helped to get this going. And I think once viewers and management and staff and devs saw the results of this role play, you're quickly realizing that, oh, well, people can say what they say, but at least my opinion is that Civ RP is the backbone of any server. If you don't have a proper platform for civilian role players to exist, then there is no overarching role play on the server. That's just me.
Yeah, and
I'd agree.
I think having Cerberus be very enabling of all of our role play underneath that. Like, I don't think there's ever been a scenario where one of us, like within reason, but has come to the heads of Cerberus and been, this is a business I want to do, without them being like, all right, let's do it. And I think that from there has enabled us to do the same thing for people underneath us. And it's just kind of like branched out, where it's kind of helped a lot of people enable a lot of role play.
Oh, Eagle, you were gonna say something?
No, I just wanted to say it's like a domino effect, basically, like, and the consistency of it as well. So if they see that it's consistently doing well and you keep at it, obviously it's going to go somewhere positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2 points you guys touched on were really cool there. Like the fact that because it's like a trickle down of like good role play, because there's good business role play at the top, a lot of other people will be like, oh, like I don't have to be like robbing a bank, or I don't have to be like doing this to like generate cool role play. I can like actually go and like run a business. Another point that you guys talked about, it's funny, we talked about this on the podcast previously. We talked about whitelists, and I genuinely believe whitelists are good for roleplay servers because of business RP, because of exactly what you guys talked about, which is you need people who can kind of use the whitelist of either just having a lot of money or having some extra dev resources to set other people up. On that note, where has there been like, what do you think are some of the biggest like challenges with business RP? Have people ever felt like have you guys ever been challenged like in a way of like, oh, it's unfair that you have extra money, or it's unfair that you were granted this business? Like, what are some of the challenges that you guys have to deal with these days with some of the business RP stuff? Because I know there are some.
Say
Um,
consistency is a big one. Having
yeah.
people who are willing to be consistent in the city, or are able to be consistent in the city to try to push their stuff forward. That can be really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who can't even log in 3 days in a row, I know all about the problems of consistency in RP.
Yeah, you didn't
What do
get your
you
gold star.
what do you mean
Uh,
about consistency when you say that, Kate? Do you mean in the sense of like having somebody operating your business at all times, for example, or
Well, it just like obviously being able to get into the city, some people without prio, like they really
right?
want to do stuff, but they're
Hmm.
physically unable to. And so you want to set up a meeting and you want to push their business and you want to sign contracts and work together and do all this stuff, but prio is obviously an issue or just some people get really excited about an idea and then 2 weeks later they're like, "Well, actually whatever, I don't really care anymore." So I think one of the amazing things about Cerberus is like, 2 years later, the team is all still on the same page about wanting to do stuff every single day. We still do our meetings, we still do all that stuff, which I think is really rare when attention deficit is a massive issue, not only for role players, but streamers and gamers in general.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
you need a lot of it takes a lot of time and creativity and effort to lay the proper groundwork if you want to have a proper functioning organizations. I think ultimately, I believe the Cerberus is where it's at right now because of the time spent building it. Um, but to touch upon your question, Blau, I think for me personally, I think one thing I not necessarily struggle with, but try to think about a lot is perspective. I think like you said, when you're in a position where you can essentially grant people certain businesses, or you can allow people to get certain jobs, or distribute wealth and all these things, you start having to think about the things of fairness, or do I have too much of something, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's also the other side of the balance of this thought process where it's like, okay, but I also worked to get to this point, and I've also spent the time, and I've also done the boring stuff, and I've done all these things. Um, I don't know. I think ultimately it would be cool to have people being in a similar situation. Like, let's say there would be multiple Cerberus companies, but I think for that to exist, you would have to see, um, consistent dedication. I think at the end of the day, truly, I believe that there's a lot of people, or sorry, there's rather a very finite amount of people that are willing to do that type of role play, because a lot of people do find it boring. It's very conversational and it's very slow, and it's very slow payoff. But when you get the payoff, it's huge and it feels really good. But a lot of people kind of want the gold, but don't really want to do the journey because it can be boring.
Yeah.
well,
There's situations where I sit and answer business proposals for 2 hours, and it's not the most pogs per minute, like we're doing a boost or robbing a bank, but, like, when it's done, I feel accomplished.
Sure.
And it's also enabled roleplay for, 30 other people in the city to be able to then go start their business and get their storefronts and start selling their products and everything like that. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Nidas.
yeah, I mean, one thing I've noticed, I'm curious how you guys feel about this. I think the like pogs per minute, my experience with it in 3.0. And so, nice. I'd be curious about your like longer term takes, but Eagle, Kate, curious about you guys as new 3.0 people. Me starting GTA roleplay, I really was like, oh, rob banks, do that. And while granted, I don't do traditional business RP, the more like slow burn, I'd call it like pseudo business stuff that we did with like, ski, where we sold cocaine, or any of the like selling cocaine arcs that I've done. I realized that like I feel like initially the initial hook of GTRP is the pogs per minute, the cop chases, etc. But I feel like the longevity and where you really sink in is stuff like business RP, or the more slow burn, kind of maybe like quieter crime kind of stuff. I'm curious if you guys have felt somewhat similar, because I'm someone where like I just don't have a desire to do as much of the pogs per minute stuff anymore.
I've never felt that, honestly. Um, I I love the slow burn. I would prefer the slow burn and building like what we have built over going to rob a bank and shoot a cop. And I prefer providing things for other people to work on as much as I've enjoyed it the past 2 years. Like I'd take that any day than doing the same thing over and over every day.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And
I
but
mean,
that's really like to my point that like there's a very finite amount of people that actually truly enjoy doing that type of stuff.
yeah. And you have people like Eve who are, helping build a heroin empire, which is like, so you can do it. You can do your pog stuff, but just in kind of different, more clever ways almost. And in the slow burn kind of way that Eagle was saying. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like it's funny, Eagle, because I feel like some people will criticize. I feel like a criticism that comes of business RP or some of this stuff is people like, well, it's Grand Theft Auto. Why are you doing a business? But it's like, well, your business is a front for like a heroin operation, right? Like that's not real life business, right? Like that's pretty Grand Theft Auto. I mean, what are your thoughts? I'm curious about that, Eagle. Like, what are your thoughts on like how you tie in like Grand Theft Auto with business?
I feel like every day is different, right? So, like comparing it to like what the base game is it's been so different over the past couple of years. Like I feel like we have so much things that's added on and it is what you make it. So I feel like you can't really compare and everybody's taste is different. Like I don't like high-speed chases. I don't like this and that. So if I want to take a step back and do this, I can. And if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. I am okay with that. I really am.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know, like Good Will Hunting is one of my all-time favorite movies. There's not really explosions that go on in that movie, right? It's I think it's the same thing with movies. Some of the best movies are dialogue focused, character focused movies that are not necessarily the Michael Bay movie, like because in a lot of ways, like when you do like, and it depends on the context, but I would feel like more of the content I was creating when I was doing like spam bank robberies was like I was doing like Michael Bay shit. It was basically, hey, can I create cool explosions and scenes like that, as opposed to, hey, here's really interesting dialogue and dynamics. So I totally agree with that. You guys have all mentioned Cerberus, and again, I'm assuming a lot of the viewers know what this is, but for the sake of the podcast, and let's pretend that I'm eventually trying to put these on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Can you guys tell what is Cerberus, and to you guys, like explain to the viewers what Cerberus is, and how that has been a major catalyst of business RP for you guys.
That's a big question. That's
Yeah,
a big question.
and also explain it on
I
the
want
fundamental
Nidas to
level
answer
where
this.
an
Yeah.
average Apple consumer can understand.
Yeah, you guys think it makes you kind of think though, right? Like I think about how much you guys take for granted the fact that you guys are like, the core of Cerberus. Speaking of,
We
by
are
the way,
not evil.
yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
the original intention with Cerberus was for us to create a wasn't really a business, more so an entity that would be essentially like an Illuminati organization, because that type of stuff has been attempted in the past, but it was never properly done in my mind, right? I wanted to do it in a way where it was like done, quote unquote, the proper way, according to my own ways, right? So Dean and I would roleplay a lot at this time, and I decided to rope him into that. We started talking about doing that. We looked at a couple of different prospects, and the RP kind of led eventually to Lang coming in and doing that with us, Buddha. Because again, the fact that we had 3 whitelists, it just made sense to create like a giant corporate entity and then control these things in the city through these corporate entities, because this had never been really done before, not on this scale. Because again, like difference in finance and money really drives roleplay. That's ultimately what drives, in my opinion, and from my perspective, it drives all roleplay. People are willing to do things if you have a cool car that they want, or if you have a gun that they can't get, or if you have $1 million and they have $100, they're gonna want to do what you ask of them, right? And it's again, like that's also like a thing where it's okay, well, with great power comes great responsibility, right? But if you're a competent role player, and that's different definition depending on who you ask, right? But if you're a competent role player in the sense of caring about your peers and making sure that there's role play around for everybody, then it is possible to utilize these assets to create more role play instead of just kind of banking and doing whatever, right? So that was the original intention. We want to create a mega corporation that was essentially secret society that would have impact on the server wherever, whenever, all the time. And we strive to achieve that goal from day one. We never stopped achieving that goal, and it was our focus for every day for 2 years. And if you put in that amount of work, then at some point you're gonna achieve what you want, I think.
Damn. Okay, well,
Damn.
yeah, damn.
I have nothing to add to
That's it.
that. I have nothing to add to that. That was a great
I'm
answer.
like, oh, okay. Well, Kate Eagle, I'm curious, like, what's Cerberus? Yeah, I was actually sunlocked there. I mean, Kate Eagle, what's what are your take? If that's sort of like the origins of Cerberus, where do you think Cerberus is now? Then, like, how would you guys explain Cerberus's role in the city? Today, May 2023.
There's like
I
two
mean,
versions, right? There's two
yeah.
versions. People either hate Cerberus or they love Cerberus. It's like I don't think there's an in between, honestly. And they either hate Cerberus because they don't work for any of the companies at all, or they actually have gotten a lot of opportunities from what we've created, and they are thankful for that. And I strive for the people who are actually very thankful. And joining Cerberus, I remember all I wanted to do was sell offices during the EU AU hours. And yeah, and then it just became something more than that.
Oh yeah, that's how you got your start.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. We just needed somebody to hire offices, and then you just turned out to be the best ever. And then we're like, we need to keep her, please.
It's okay. This is I have a spicy take for you and for Cerberus people. This is based off what Eagle said. I'm curious how all three of you responded. I think it is hard to RP I think it's hard to RP some of the stuff around Cerberus for people because here spicy take, but here's the tricky part. In RP and like the visuals and aesthetic of Cerberus, like kind of like let's just purely think about like in the city, like how it's set up. It kind of is supposed to be a little bit evil. Like let's be honest. Like there's the 3-headed dog. There's like kind of like some like it's supposed to kind of give you the feeling of like Google as a megacorp, but like actually like kind of pseudo evil, right? But then the problem is that it's kind of like what you guys touched on with the whitelist, which is at the end of the day, like, and this is why it's kind of conflicting. At the end of the day, like Cerberus and what it like has done OOC for people is just fundamentally good. I just don't know how anyone could argue with that, because at the end of the day, it literally is just it's almost a tool to create role play for other people, business role play for other people. Like a lot of business role play stems from Cerberus. Like there's something to be said, which is like, and again, this is just how I personally view it, that like OOC, if you objectively look at what you guys have all created with Cerberus, it's just an incredibly positive thing. So how do you grapple that OOC positivity of what Cerberus does versus like, and again, maybe it's that you guys are changing the in-game narrative as well, but it's like, I always thought in-game it was, the whole like Cerberus, we're not evil kind of thing. Like, how do you guys like basically deal with that image of in character versus the actual OOC good that's done?
That was a really mild take, Blau.
What is the question?
Yeah, like how do you guys get around that?
So to be clear, the question is, how do we deal with people not liking Cerberus in game, even if we know that they like it out of game or that it has a positive impact out of game?
Yeah, I actually think maybe the better question is how do you role play it as evil? Like how can you genuinely role play Cerberus as evil, or can you anymore? Because like no, that's actually maybe that's the hard question. Yeah, Kate, that's my spicy take. I don't think you can. I don't think you guys can role play that Cerberus is evil. I think it does just way too much OOC good for you guys to role play it as evil.
I throw people off the roof under the guise of job interviews.
My character is fundamentally a very, very evil person. If you would place Leslie in a real world context, he would be worse than probably anyone that you could imagine in the same type of corporate position. Like he is truly a very, very evil character. And I don't know. I've always been okay with kind of that. You know, for me, I would rather say it's like difficult for me to play my character the way I want him to while still doing good things. And it's almost like I have to do a little bit of evil sometimes to balance out like the good impact of the stuff that we do, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What about you, Eagle?
Yeah. So
Um, I I don't know. I would rather say that I like helping people, but if they slight Eve in any bit, I still can't do anything because I feel like me and Kate do so much other stuff for construction that we have to just stay neutral. It's very hard for us, honestly.
I've actually taken to messaging people OOC if there's conflict with them in game and been like, "Hey, just as a heads up, I realize we're in a position of power. I realize I'm in the mayor's office. I realize I'm on the construction team. Please feel like don't feel that because of our conflict in character, you're ever going to get blocked from anything. If you feel that in character you can't approach one of us because of the conflict, message me OOC and I'll make sure that like we get you taken care of and we get you your business approved or your storefront or your whatever you need because I realize that that can be like a really tough thing, but I'm also not going to be in a position to ever gatekeep anybody from stuff or block them or anything like that. So yeah, it can be really hard to play evil when you actually just want to do good, but you also don't want to stop the conflict because it makes sense for your character, it makes sense for the story, blah blah blah. But I don't want to stop people from having the things that we have access to.
Yeah, it
yeah,
sounds like
that's ultimately, I think my absolute biggest struggle is the fact that I hate not playing my character the quote unquote correct way. I really
Mhm,
don't like to do
mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And I hate going OC, and I hate like doing things that doesn't make sense. Like fucking like the other day, Eve calls Leslie, or we're on a phone call, and Eve says it's Denzel's birthday, and like I'm me, Nidas, all right, yeah, sick. Happy birthday, Denzel. But as Leslie, I say, okay, good for him. And then I move on to business talk immediately.
Yeah,
Because,
that's what he
because,
said.
because it's like, that's what Leslie would say, you know?
Yeah, Leslie doesn't care.
Um, yeah. And I like to surround myself with people that understand that what I do at any given time is just role play because it makes it easier for me to do what I'm good at. And that is playing my character. Like that's how it is ultimately. And to go back to what we were talking about earlier, like I think also one of the fundamental points to why Cerberus was created, at least from my perspective, like what I wanted to do with it was, I've always enjoyed the idea of like trying to predict what people are gonna do and trying to figure out why people think in a certain way. And um, I've had this back and forth with Rami like a long time where he would constantly do something and then I would try to predict what he was gonna do and try to stop him from doing it before he even did it, et cetera, et cetera. And that type of stuff was always I've always really enjoyed that type of stuff, and it's been a very fundamental basis for my character, and it's something that I built into business RP very quickly. It's kind of one of the we usually talk about the three pillars of Cerberus, and I think one of the pillars was kind of the psychological warfare that we implemented through business. But it is difficult because I really sometimes want to go goblin mode with my character, but you can't always do that for obvious reasons, right?
Something about Leslie that terrifies me is his um and this is you for sure, but your unbelievable ability to have complete soul reads on people. And
Mm,
you
mm.
can look at a situation and like lay out exactly people's intent, how they're going to react, what the like situation is going to be. And it's terrifying sometimes. I don't know if you're a time traveler or what, but like your ability to do that shit is crazy.
My favorite word from the Simone arc was perspective.
Mhm.
Mm,
Right. I mean, but and if you think about it, that type of I guess you'd call it a skill is something that works really well in a corporate warfare landscape, right?
yes.
Like
Yes.
it's a very big key element. Like if you possess that ability, then you will end up on top, I think.
And I think that's why, you know, one, it's hilarious, but two, I think the reason that Lang comes to Leslie so much to be like, okay, well, this is our conflict. What's our plan? And even when you took your break for a while, anytime there would be an issue, all of us would be like, what would Leslie do in this scenario? Because
Literally.
he would
Yeah.
come up with the perfect solution.
Yeah,
Multiple like
there's
PDM employees would come to me and be like, "Okay, what would Leslie do?" That's our motto.
there's a little secret to how I well, I actually have two secrets as to how I think about roleplay in order to get to that point. I have a notebook where like a physical notebook where I will write down thoughts and ideas that just, like sometimes when you just sit and think about stuff, then you get creative ideas about how you would approach a situation, or like I'll think back at like, okay, I had this RP today, and Rami did this, and then I start thinking about, okay, well, why did he say that, and what part of that was the streamer, what was the character, um, and what could I place in front, and then I note that down, and then always when I'm really like about it with roleplay, I go through waves where I'm really excited about it. Sometimes I'm less excited about it. But when I'm really excited about roleplay, something I always consistently do is when I go to bed, I lay in bed for about 1.5 hours maybe, and I only think about roleplay. It's probably it sounds
That sounds
not great,
consuming.
but that's what I do. I think about the next steps that I'm gonna take. I think about the kind of the conflicts that are going on, and I thrive in conflict. I really enjoy verbal conflict, and in the sense of like having a situation in front of me, and then solving that, and it works very well for business RP. I think that's why I've always kind of only done that type of RP ultimately, right?
Yeah, I
Time to
mean,
copyright the word Habibi.
yeah, I mean, like, here's a question then for the three of you, because that's like one angle of business RP, which well, we've actually kind of heard a few, and I'm always curious about this. I can name some characters that kind of do this, but this sounds like the you guys we've talked a little bit about kind of like the OOC management of other people's RP. Like they have ideas, we manage some of that. We've also talked about this like high level corporate espionage kind of warfare. This is an aspect of business RP. I'm curious for your guys' thoughts on it. What about the like Michael Scott style, like blundering business RP? Because I, for instance, I actually feel like all three of your guys' characters tend to make really like good decisions. Like I think your guys' characters are known for doing like smart things. What are your guys' thoughts when it comes to like people either intentionally or unintentionally, like, making bad business decisions for the sake of, story, content, whatever it is?
You're talking about like Shelly?
Yeah. Shelly. Yeah. Shelly is amazing.
Yeah.
Harry.
I think
Yeah, I was
I
thinking
think
like Harry or like yeah, I was thinking Harry or Barry Benson.
I think it's very
Barry Benson's a
admirable.
great one, actually.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point where I'm in awe
Mm.
of that. I think it's very admirable to be able to do that and see kind of the W and the L. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's definitely an aspect of role play that some people are kind of the kings and queens of, right? And it's I would say it's almost even harder to do that.
There are people who are so good at taking L's that I'm like actually jealous. Like Xavier Valentine, for example, is a walking L, but he has some of the funniest like failing upwards I've ever seen on the server. I don't know how he does it. He is constantly terrible and down horrendous, but like does great things. And it's really neat to see.
Yeah.
I feel like
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Eagle.
Yeah, sorry. I feel like consciously I can't make a decision because I feel like I think about other people too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's my downfall in trying to make a decision that will influence other people badly, especially if it's something that I'm gonna be like for the lols, you know?
Yeah. I so agree with that because so many of our decisions at Cerberus affect so many other people that like if we want to do something funny because we're feeling spicy or we want to stir or something, that could easily fuck up however many other people's role play and their businesses and their decisions. So sometimes I have to just reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
But to
And
the topic of discussion for these people specifically, I think it's I don't know. I can't really comprehend how they do it, because if I see an issue, then I'm immediately problem solving mode and I want to kind of annihilate the issue.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so for these guys and to be kind of like doing this and willingly memeing around it, I think is really, really cool. And it's also needed. I think business doesn't always have to be serious. I think if you want to build like a huge corporate entity and be successful, then obviously you need to make this, designated choices to be successful. But role play or your ability to role play or your success in role play isn't estimated by how successful your business is, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been some like really like, for me, I remember some of the role play. I have no idea how successful they were as a business, but I just remember watching clips and role play from it. But there was like the OG Burger Shot days in early 3.0, and I used to watch some of those clips. And I have no idea if they were successful as a business then or not, but I remember being like, damn, the role play here is like some office level shit. Like, it's just funny. It was just entertaining to watch. This is actually a serious question. How do the three of you guys deal with the fact that there is like a decent amount of OOC pressure and often OOC work? How do you manage? And I actually don't know like what you guys fully do besides if you guys are doing full-time streaming or content creation or like what else you're doing. Like, how do you manage whether it's work and your personal life with role play that, in my opinion, from having dabbled in it a little bit, is probably some of the most time consuming and like, intensive role play. How do you guys manage your time?
Just
For
cry.
me, since day yeah, just cry, right?
Right.
I'm a man. But no, yeah, no, from day one of 3.0, I've actually never handled RP outside of RP ever. Like I don't just talk in business discords. I don't do email RP, none of that. Never did. When I get off the server, I'm off the server. I don't do any OOC work like that.
I'm so jealous. So
Yeah,
jealous of that.
Kate
That
Eagle,
sounds amazing.
they're like, what's it like? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean,
that?
even during the upstart of Cerberus, I'm pretty confident. Yeah, I'm confident in saying that between me, Lang, and Dean, we maybe talked about business RP like maybe once.
That's crazy.
Sounds so
Yeah.
nice.
So everything that we did was only on the server at any given time.
So
Sounds like you guys have a
for
different
us-
experience, Kate and Eagle.
for
Okay,
us,
you know what?
it's a
I'm just
lot
gonna.
of
Okay, I'm
spreadsheets.
gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be the one in the room. Yeah, you know why that is? Now, listen, I'm gonna say it. The heads of Cerberus are allowed to do that because people like Kate and Eagle were doing a lot of the OOC work behind the scenes. There, I said it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my
But you also have to remember that there was a point in time when when it wasn't like that, and we still did do
Yeah,
it. I think
we
it's
weren't
also
around.
you also
Mm,
you also
yeah.
have to consider that Lang or Buddha and I have been around for a long time, and I think we're also at the point where we're like, okay, we just don't want to be dealing with it. You know what I mean? But I don't mean to downplay, because you're absolutely right in what you're saying. It requires the background work as well.
Yeah. So I mean, for Eagle and I, there's a lot of spreadsheets. There's a lot of most of the stuff gets handled in character with making decisions on storefronts or this or that. But that's there's still things that need to be discussed out of character that just don't make sense to talk about in city when we're talking about that the storefront can't be here because it's gonna mess up the one next to it because of the item limit for the decorators. Like there's no real easy way to talk about that kind of stuff.
Right.
We also take construction requests. So there's a lot of time that we're speaking to devs and getting approvals on that kind of stuff, and we're working with the team there. And like there's there's just a lot to it that we just can't handle in city as much as I would love to be able to. It just doesn't make sense. Because it would break all of our immersion completely. So
Mm.
I can't even keep track of how many spreadsheets we have at this point. Keeping
A
track of
lot.
all of our proposals. Yeah, all of the proposals, the requests, it's a lot.
Audible sigh.
Yeah. I'd love to hear Eagle, because Eagle and I I'm very lucky to be able to work with Eagle alongside pretty much everything. So we always have I always have someone to lean on, or
Yeah, we spread
um
the work nicely.
yeah, or gut check, which is like, oh, I think this is how I should do it, but I just want to check with Eve real quick before I make that full decision all on my own. and it's really, really nice to have somebody to like lean on in cases like that.
Yeah, and balancing it, it's like, again, like I try not to look at everything at once. When I know I'm going to get on the serve, I quickly just check everything before I know I have to check Eve's phone and have like 20 texts from these people who are waiting on things.
Yeah.
And I think a question earlier, Blau, which you said, like, what makes business RP hard? I wanted to say, like, saying no to people
Mm,
Yes.
yeah.
is actually very, very hard because you know, you kind of have a feeling of like what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And when you're like doing like all these things, it's like, well, I know this potentially won't work, but I don't know if I'm in the position to be like, well, I can't really say no sometimes.
Eagle, do you think you've gotten like a little bit of an understanding now for like what the devs can and can't implement? Because like you guys probably go to them like, hey, like someone proposed this, and a dev will be like, oh yeah, we can do that. And then like other times you'll be like, oh, like, hey, people want to do this, and the devs will just be like, we can't do that for X, Y, and Z. Do you guys feel like you're starting to get more of an understanding of what does and doesn't work in the GTA space as a result of that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's very
Yeah.
easy when you start talking to them and you kind of understand, and also what has been on the server in the past 2 years as well. You kind of get the feeling of, this hasn't been implemented or this can be implemented, but it's very hard to. So you kind of get the feeling and you learn along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been scenarios where people have asked for something that in their eyes, they're like, "Oh, this is so easy if you could just give us this, this, and this." And I've said like, "Okay, well, the first thing you requested is simple. Sure, that can happen. 2 and 3 though, that is gonna take like hours upon hours of dedicated dev time, and I really don't think it's possible. We can always ask, but like there's always thinking about stuff that could this get abused by people in game for whatever reason, like in a shootout. Like, hey, we don't have ramps anymore. That's crazy. Could this turn into another ramp scenario? Could this turn
Were ramps
into
removed because of that?
ramps were removed to my knowledge because people were abusing them for things that they shouldn't have been using them for.
Oh, those were so sick. Do you know my one
They
my
were
one
so
bit
sick.
my biggest regret is that I wasn't doing all my crazy heist planning when ramps existed. I could have done some crazy shit if I was doing heists at the time when ramps were around, because you can like that just opens up so much random stuff. I loved those, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
ramps were fun, but, like, also they were tough because only the person who put them down could remove them, and so, like, they would often stay up in weird spots where they shouldn't have been, or they would glitch out, and then they would be there for, like, 12 hours. It would ruin people's, like, ruin chases and stuff, so there's, like, a variety of reasons why maybe they shouldn't have stuck around. But, you know, we like again with like I have stages that I can put or even Nancy can put all over the city. We just have to be careful that people aren't going to put them as like a block for a shootout or they're not gonna, use them for reasons they shouldn't be used for. So I think just with the time that we've had, it's kind of ingrained in our brains of, oh yeah, this is either good or this is bad. And that goes for dev questions too. Like, yeah, devs can do this easy or no, it's gonna be way too hard.
okay, I have a fun question then for all three of you, actually. Kind of on the note of like keeping track of proposals or stuff. What has been whether it could be implemented or not? What has been your guys' favorite just like role play business idea in your time role playing? Like what was like the one business idea that, like, oh, that was sick. Whether it could be done or not, what has been your like favorite idea in business RP in the last couple of years? Let's start with Nidas.
I'm gonna be real, man. Like I don't. Well, I was gonna say I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, but I don't eat breakfast. But I can't remember half of the business ideas that have been presented to me. Honestly, I mean, there's been a lot of very good stuff. I think there's NoPixel.
Are there any that were notoriously bad without like naming of yours?
I think Garrick has had a lot of a lot of meme ideas that have been interesting, but I honestly can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was. I think that the issue is when it comes, because I had a period in time where I would let people come to my office and role play, and I would listen to them and listen to what they had to say, and I would assist them and kind of their ideas regarding business. And the problematic aspect usually becomes, okay, well, I have this idea, but how do you balance it in terms of OC health? Like, okay, it would be really cool if we created a business where everybody had, fucking, I don't know, rocket launchers where you can launch each other out of rockets. Yeah, sick, awesome. But would it really work like on a real level? I don't know. Maybe, probably not. There's a lot of cool implementation ideas with like tax related stuff, like businesses that would go through that stuff, and a lot of these things that are possible, and a lot of these things that aren't possible. And I think the kind of leveraging those things against each other is usually the difficult point. But to your question, I honestly I can't remember specifically. I'll think about it for a second while the other guys answer.
Yeah.
Teacups.
Oh, what was it, Kate?
Teacups. A guy came to me and he wanted to sell empty cups so that when you were at your business meeting for long periods of time, you could piss into the cup under the table. And he promised it would be a multi-million dollar company. And he got prototypes made and he gave them out to everybody. And
wait. This is your best idea, right? Yeah, that's for the best idea.
That was the best idea that was ever proposed.
I
Chad
love that
remind
idea.
me of that one.
That one's
teacups.
Amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Because everyone's always like, "Oh, I got to pee in a bottle," so it's like, well, now I have an actual cup for it.
It was so funny because Toby was playing Michael Simone and he came in and actually spawned in like a dev spawn pee cup that if you use the item, it like makes you do the pee emote and then the image goes from empty to full in your pocket. And so this guy pitched pee cups to Michael Simone, and then Michael was like, "Oh, do you mean this?" and gave him the item, and his entire like world shattered around him because he was like, "This was my multi-billion-dollar idea, and it already exists, and what am I supposed to do?" And it was so funny to watch that interaction. But yeah, pee cups. That was my best/worst proposal that was brought to me.
That's amazing. What about you, Eagle?
My worst ideas are probably just listening to Lando. Just coming up with ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And literally anything he says, just the worst ideas ever. Yeah.
I forgot when it was, but Lando told my character Mickey that there was uranium underneath the the fucking oil rigs, and I actually tried to swim down there to find it. Yeah.
Lando was played by who?
Fizz.
Physical.
Fizz. Okay,
Yeah.
it was Fizz. I intended to say, not Garrett, because that was my first pick for bad ideas too.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
By the way, fun fact, I believe Fizz on his Jaeger's Island character has the record for the largest cash robbery.
Really?
He robbed Lang, right?
No, he robbed Mickey when I haven't played Mickey in like months, but Mickey, I role played that Mickey was on the run and then took out all of his money. And when they had to search Mickey, and I had like I think like $1.6 million on Mickey. So his random island character has $1.6 million from that.
No.
Yeah, funny side note. Now his yeah, I've seen some of the Lando business proposals. They are
I can't remember any business proposals that were brought to us, but I remember one business that we did that I particularly liked. I've always been a fan of businesses that exist purely for a petty purpose. And I think the ultimate example of this was when we would roleplay a lot with Wise Guy. He would roleplay that Cerberus was evil and he was always on to us, et cetera, on all his characters too. But yeah, so he was doing that. He opened up the tuner shop. And we were like, all right, how can we fuck the tuner shop? Like, what's the ultimate way of destroying the tuner shop? And I've always liked the idea of like, okay, well, if you just, if you kill someone, then you end their misery. But the best way to make somebody suffer is by making their life a living hell instead. And the way we did this was we created a business called Tolls R Us, where we set down a toll booth to the only entrances to the tuner shops. And because of the nature of what the business is, everybody would arrive by car, and we would tax people by going to their business, by taxing the surrounding area of the business. And that shit was really funny. We did it for a couple of days and then we stopped. It was so funny.
There was like bollards that was like blocking people too, right?
Mm.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
I think some people forget that like some of the I think business here's a take I've sort of had kind of like because I'm like in a like reflective state thinking about a lot of stuff from 3.0, and I feel like the major conflicts I can remember are often business conflicts of like, you know, Rooster's Rest versus Burger Shot, or like, and it's always like the business conflicts that actually stand out the most. Just because they feel more grounded in some sort of like story, and maybe it's just because people are kind of more creative in the ways that, again, it's like you could just shoot people, right? You know, because we're playing Grand Theft Auto, but it's like, or you could come up with these like other, you know, as you mentioned, Nidas, the psychological terrorism kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think my favorite thing we ever did was we had a billboard war at one point with Rami, and I remember it so vividly because what I did was, I think I can't remember how it started. I think it was something like, well, Rami did something. So what I did is I bought a billboard that was right outside Vulture Culture, and I put, I think, Leslie on that billboard, just staring at the entrance of the business. So every time he exited his business, he would have to look at Leslie. And so to counter this, because we were renting the billboard, he went to the billboard company and bought the billboard. And I predicted that he was going to do that. So I went one step further before he bought the billboard, and I bought the property that the billboard was on. And when he had a meeting with us and saying like, "Oh yeah, get destroyed, kid. Like, we bought the billboard. Like, checkmate." I said, "I knew you were going to do that." So I proceeded to buy the whole property. And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, the building that the billboard is on, we bought it. We own the building. So you can pay us rent for the billboard. It can stay up. It's fine. But just pay us rent at the end of the month." And that shit was so funny.
Damn.
Complete stun lock.
This is actually one of my kind of final questions then for the three of you. Before I want to jump to I love doing Q&A with, you know, since we're a live stream podcast now, I love doing questions from chat and stuff. So chat, get your questions ready. Before we do that, my kind of last of my questions I have for you guys is, what do you want to see next for Business RP? Whether that's like stuff you guys want to do in 3.0, in 4.0, or I mean, you know, if there's NoPixel Red Dead, or, you know, what are like business RP stuff that you guys are excited about in the future? If you guys want to, you know, you don't have to leak anything, but like what, even if it's a general thing, like what are you guys excited about to do for business RP in the future?
I haven't even thought about what I'm doing tomorrow.
Okay, well,
I haven't
I know
thought
the
that
answer
far in
to this question.
advance.
Yeah, I have an answer for this question. I think, and to be clear, this is not me saying that this is going to be a thing in the future. I have no idea what the future holds. But
yeah, and this can be, but this can be like, oh, like in 4.0, I would love if this existed. And it, like, again, this is kind of almost like wish list, right? It doesn't have to be a commitment that this is happening or not.
Right. I'd like more implementation for people to construct their own businesses. I think it would be interesting to realize a platform, or rather to have a server where it would be possible for people to realize their own businesses without outside development. I don't know how that would be possible, but if it was, it would be cool. Or even if you couldn't do that, it would be interesting to see more ways to kind of tinker with your business through in-game tools. Better maybe in-game calendars or in-game emailing systems, payment systems, bookkeeping systems, stuff like that. I also think it would be good if, let's say, the server ever wiped. It would be interesting to see kind of if whitelist exists, or whatever is planned. I think it would be important to have like a focus on making sure that there is a financial difference, because once you put people that are creative, responsible, and care about the community as a whole in those positions, then the wealth will be distributed appropriately, and then this type of civilian roleplay can continue to coexist.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I think it's fine that, like, you, even at the start of a server, that you have someone who's like a millionaire. I think that's actually fine, because that's the start of a city, or any city has like the wealthy people. And it's exactly what you said. It's what are they using that money for? Are they doing it to then naturally build and grow other businesses? Or are they, you know,
or like buy a car, like
buying their like the next tuner shop car, right? So no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Kate, Eagle, what about you guys? What do you want for business in the future?
I would like people to. I know there's a lot of business owners that we have, but like at the moment, I feel like we have a lot of people who like owning businesses, but I don't see a lot of people actually running their businesses. But there's also a lot of people who are scared to run businesses. I have a lot of people who approach Eve and they're like, "Can I be your intern? Can I be your assistant?" I'm like, "Why are you selling yourself short? You can be much more than that." And I hope that people's confidence in doing these things are, better in the future. If I can help with that, I'd love to. So hopefully it just is better in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Of like, I mean, I'll even be one to admit that like when I, granted it's not quite business, but it's somewhat related. But me as when I was mayor, I was not, I was mayor in character and did character role play stuff around mayor, but people like the character Alex were the ones who were behind the scenes carrying the mayorship and doing the actual work behind it. So I feel you on that of like wanting people to be like, hey, I want to own a business. Okay, well, you need to run the business then. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Shout out to Shadiko.
Yeah.
big time.
They're in the chat blaming me earlier.
I mean, I do think there's also the aspect of like people being scared of running businesses because they might not have the mechanical backing that they think that they require. And going to a company like Cerberus, where we have a lot of mechanical backing at this point, it's much easier to have that as a starting point for somebody, obviously, right? But in a perfect utopia of roleplay, everybody would have a personal developer. Like every single person on the server would have, for every individual, you have one developer. That would be cracked, and then you could create anything. But obviously, that's not possible. So the question then becomes, how do you make sure that everybody gets as much as possible of everything, right?
Yeah. To be fair, also, I think to play devil's advocate a little bit too, Eagle, I do think there are some instances, and I mean, maybe even I think actually the biggest issue with me playing Mickey as mayor was actually just the length that Mickey was mayor. Like he wasn't
Eternal mayor.
I was not supposed to be doing it for 8 months. I wanted to do it for like 4. It was crazy, right?
Surely.
But that was one where I actually really valued and appreciated that people were helping me behind the scenes. And so for me, the biggest thing was finding the right people who could support me doing that. And like, I think I've seen other businesses in game and other stuff where sometimes it does make sense. Like, oh, here's a person who wants to be kind of like the figurehead of a business. And they have people work from behind the scenes. And sometimes it actually even like makes sense in character. Foosley's character, April, running Picture Perfect, but not actually running the camera business at all, but basically being the like figurehead of it. It kind of makes sense for, I don't know, a pop star that is basically sells their own branded cameras, right? So I think there are still some instances where it makes sense, but I do agree with you, Eagle, overall that it's more like, hey, you want to run a business? Okay, you got to run the business. So, Kate, what was your thing that you're like, oh, what business in the future,
I don't know, just like more, I don't know. This one's tough because on the one hand, I think civilians should be the ones running businesses, or maybe more um like stricter punishments for criminal businesses or criminals who own businesses who do crime. As much as I love playing a criminal character and I can't right now because I'm clean, I would love to see there actually be like consequences that if you get caught shooting a bunch of cops, something happens to your business, or you're caught drug trafficking or doing a meth run or something, like something happens to your business. I think that would be really cool. I don't know how that would be implemented at all, but I think like having consequences for that would be a really interesting like RP scenario.
I agree, but I also think in the same breath, it would be interesting if there was consequences for the type of things that we did sometimes.
Yeah,
I- in the
agreed.
sense of like embezzling money or like doing unorthodox things with your businesses. I think if there was a way, because what we often do is corporate crime, and I agree. I do think it would be nice if you could somehow punish the business, but at the end of the day, it's difficult to punish people on the server with entities, because people, you know, love their cars and their businesses, and it's part of their character. So it is a difficult topic of discussion.
For sure.
But I think financial crimes and stuff like that would be a very interesting aspect of RP. It's just very difficult to implement properly, and it's difficult to do it properly in any way, shape, or form. Um,
And even people that
I've
want to investigate financial crimes, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
Y-
yeah.
I
I've always wanted to do like a kind of a like an admin character. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Fargo. There's a character in there called V Embargo.
No.
no.
That I really like. It's like this British guy who is the spokesperson for a big company, and he comes in and he's creepy, and he shows up at weird times all the time. And he has this driving force with him. There's just this aura, and I think it would be cool if there was like a couple of characters on the server like that shows up, and like it's tax season now, like and has the aura of like, okay, well, let's say like G-Man from Half-Life. I'm sure you guys maybe know who that is. Having that omniscient aura of like, okay, I know about what you guys are doing already. It's just up to me to find out what it is exactly that goes on here. When I do, you guys are all done.
Ooh.
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, in a similar, and you guys all knew this, but like when one of my big goals on Mickey was to do this like crazy, a different kind of heist where he, embezzles all the money from the state, right? And I purposefully left breadcrumbs, and I wanted it to be some giant investigation thing. And then I realized near the end of it that even with leaving breadcrumbs, even with making it like, this is the challenge, I think, with any financial crimes, even with doing stuff like that, it couldn't be done. And it still didn't get investigated. But I do think, to the point of like I'm trying to, like, I think part of the problem is like let's say like Lang got in trouble somehow, and Rooster's Rest gets taken away from him. Like, I think the problem is that like it causes issues for, like you guys are saying, that there's this weird balance of wanting consequences, but then those consequences affecting other people's RP in a way that like we're not role playing the real world. It's not supposed to be as unfair as the real world. Someone who's a dedicated person working at Rooster's Rest, like we want them to have that RP, and we don't want to like jeopardize that because of, the person on high doing something, right? So I'm curious. One last sort of follow-up question. Do you guys have any suggestions for like, because I've always agreed that like, hey, the mega criminals, gang leaders, etc., they should have consequences for their business. How do you negotiate that with not affecting RP for like a bunch of the other people who work for those businesses?
I have no idea.
Yeah, there might not be a good answer to that too. So
I have no idea. I really don't.
just solve this problem right now, Kate, real quick for me.
Well, no, I've thought about this too, and I'm just like, I don't see an easy way for it to make sense, really. I'm sure there is a way, but it would be difficult.
I think if you want people to be okay with an overwhelming loss, you need to recultivate the expectation of behavior of the whole community, and that's a process that would take a much longer time. But it is possible. But you would have to make things much more temporary as a whole. People are used with the server being up for many, even years before it gets wiped. So people expect their businesses to be around for that whole time. We've gone from sometimes crushing cars to not even, to my knowledge, doing it at all. Maybe it happens. I'm not sure. But I think if you wanted that environment, it's entirely possible, but it's something that would have to be cultivated over a very long amount of time.
I actually think for a pointer for something like that, I would want there to be agreements, especially if someone is given a whitelist, that they basically sign an agreement that, hey, if you have this whitelist for a business or for this activity, you can lose it in character. It's not, but I think like it needs to, like, the expectations need to be set. It's like, we're not punishing you, we're punishing your character, and it's good because there'll be RP from it. And maybe the agreement is that, like, I think it always gets tricky when someone pays money, like real money for it, right? So not to, continue to use like Rooster's Rest as an example, like I'm pretty sure Buddha paid for, am I wrong on that? He paid for that.
Think so?
Yeah, he paid
so.
for it, right? So maybe that's one where it's like, hey, you get this whitelisted property or this business, you can lose it, but there will if you do, there will be avenues in RP for you to get it back. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe you have to have some sort of agreements with people before they accept those things to basically be like, you can lose this. However, hey, if you invested real world money in it, we'll find ways for you to be able to get it back.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one solution I could think of, but at this time, unless you guys have any other comments on that, I actually do want to open it up. We like to do a section on this near the end where we open it up to chat. Chat, remember, drama-free questions. Questions can be related to Business RP. You guys can tag me in the chat so that I can see them. And obviously, if any of you guys see any questions, but yeah, tag me and then ask about. Just tag me so I can see them, but then tell me who the question's for, if it's for all the guests, if it's for a specific person, etc. And I'll start it off with a fun one. This is a drama-free question for Nidas. How would you rate Blau? How would you rate Blau's time as an ad? Is your answer phenomenal?
Yeah, phenomenal. With a serious tone.
Yeah, it was very serious.
No, I don't think I was a bad admin. I just didn't do anything. And I think the times I did do stuff was fine. I actually think I weighed in on a few things in a pretty if you want my honest take, I mean, Nice, I'm curious what you think. I thought it was fine. I weighed in on things in a pretty reasonable manner. I just didn't have the time for it. Because this is also when I was doing consulting.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. What this is for all three of you guys. What other games outside of GTA would you want to do business RP in? If any.
I wouldn't.
You just wouldn't.
I do enough business in my everyday life. Like as a full-time streamer, I've been a full-time streamer for 7 years. I roleplay a competent business person in my everyday life when I have to do contract negotiations or have meetings with my management company or anything like that. I don't want to do any more business outside of the business I already do in character.
Yeah, I can't even think of any games that I could do that in right now, like to the top of my head. And I feel like I main GTA, I main NoPixel, only play like games with friends on game nights. Like I don't have time.
I mean, like I'm curious, like what about like Red Dead Redemption? Would you guys ever consider bringing business stuff there?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Okay. Red Dead's a little too slow paced for me. So I don't think I could.
I mean, for me, it's more so where there is roleplay. I think ultimately, to some extent, I will always be doing business RP. Maybe not to the same scale I'm doing it right now, but that's always what I will be doing.
Someone I don't know why they're asked this, but someone asked for you, Eagle. Would you ever consider doing a cop character? Has that ever been something of interest to you?
I have a cop character.
What? Really?
Yeah, she's an STSO cop. She's opposite of Eve Summer. She's Dawn Winters, and she's a forever cadet. I think I've done more ride-alongs on Eve than I have on Dawn. I just don't have time. Probably in the next wipe, I'll probably play more cop. But like I said, I just have too much to do on Eve.
Same. I have a cop character too, and she just got fired because I just didn't have time to do cop stuff. Veronica Mars. She was like ready to be a non-solo cadet and then would have been a full officer. Multiple people told me that, but FTO people, but I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time to play her.
I have a question from someone named Coil in the chat. They said, would Nidas ever go back to real RP in A3L?
That's funny. He's a funny guy. I mean, Coil is known for he's just a funny guy. I'll tell you something. I have a video of the first time I met Coil. It's unlisted on my YouTube channel. I'm not going to show it because it's really awkward and weird. I think I put it in my stream at some point. The first time I met Coil, we were on A3L. I would roleplay a lot with a guy called Fred Cobblestone, who was this really, really talented role player for the times, because people were awful at roleplay back then. The idea of roleplay was garbage, very much so. It was not great. And Fred Cobblestone was a really, really good role player. And I would role play with him. His whole thing was that he would skin people and wear their skin. But he would like do it in a creative, fun way. I met Coyle when we were with Fred Cobblestone, and he would skin people, and we would essentially help him do that. And I remember so vividly because Coyle at the time, he played a character called Kale Sose. I played a character called Paul Goodman, who was a corrupt lawyer. And Coyle would always try to get the situation to become a shootout. Yeah, it's kind of like the Michael Scott meme of when they're doing the
pull out a gun,
improv acting, and he always pulls out the gun. That was Coyle, bro. Like he would always try to pull out a gun and try to, like, I remember we had this arc with this one chick where we were doing this long thing. She was like singing and stuff, and then Coyle somehow just ended the situation with like shooting her in the back, and the RP was just over. so that's how that was.
Coyle in the chat said we probably ERP'd. So
yeah.
For anyone wondering if I'm ever like, you know, I always, by the way, whenever I invite people on to these, I always get this is just a side note for you guys, Eagle, Kate, and Nidas. I feel like you guys are perfect for business RP, but you guys already know when I invited you guys on, I had a million questions, right? And it was always like, I think going forward, I'm going to try and just bring people on for episodes that make no sense. So like for me, I was like, oh, you guys were perfect for this. This is 100%. Everyone's gonna be like, damn, W podcast. But then people were like, why did he only invite Cerberus people? Why did he not invite Buddha? By the way, fun, Buddha's getting mad at me for exposing this, but Buddha was like, Buddha texted me. I think it was like last, like, it was like brother holds what did he say? Brother holds a business podcast and doesn't invite his own boy. Sheesh. And I responded back. I in all caps was like, oh my God, would you actually come on? And he's like, no, but I want to be asked.
Yeah.
The most Buddha shit ever. Anyways, I've decided I'm gonna invite Coyle on, not to talk about like NoPixel or I want to do a whole pod, or one of the episodes I wanted to do on the origins of RP. So like Nidas, you know, good fits for that, right? I mean, me, Eagle, Kate, we're obviously new to it in 3.0, but like Nidas would be great for that.
Saeed was there from like day one too.
Oh yeah, Saeed. No, fuck that. I'm not gonna bring him. I'm gonna bring Coyle on for the ERP episode, 100%. I've now decided I'm just gonna bring people on for just episodes that. Well, actually, that one kind of makes sense, honestly, in some sense. So, actually, maybe that works too well. Yeah, that's my new plan. Okay. Here's another question. From the chat. This was one from the chat earlier. Do you guys think, this is a spicy question, do you guys think Cerberus is too big to fail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as Lang in character wants it to fail, we have too many companies that are successful.
Yeah. I that's actually pretty. I was wondering if you guys had any other longer takes, but that's kind of, I think, the simple take. It's too
not
big.
It's not that complicated. Yeah. It's the fundamental structure of the company is too well woven at this point. It's
in fact, I would say if not Cerberus, but my expectation would be that, you know, given that NoPixel 4.0 goes in a again, has similar, unless it, you know, they completely diverge into some other direction for RP, which I don't think, you know, fully will. I would imagine that something like Cerberus will also exist on 4.0, if not multiple, you know, Cerberuses, right? Like, I'd
like to see multiple empires in that sense exist. I think it would be cool. It requires a lot of dedicated role players to work together, but it's achievable, and I'd like to see a future where that is the case.
I've always liked the idea that there would be two.
Yeah, hopefully it motivates people.
Yeah. Because I'd love to have some like competition with another big company like that. I think it's necessary to have the big companies because like we facilitate a lot of stuff for other people. But I would love to have a competitor like that.
Yeah, I think that would enable just because it feels, you know, I feel like that when Cerberus has had conflict with other groups or entities, it actually provides really good really good content. So
For sure.
Mhm.
But not only that, it provides a very healthy baseline for roleplay.
Oh, this is a cool question. Have you guys ever done something in business RP that you were then like, wait, this would actually be a decent idea for real life, for IRL business? Have you
Yes.
ever learned the flip? Oh, do tell.
So I have a soap company in game called Clean Getaway, and I have been working for the last couple of years on making that a company out of character.
That's cool.
That is
Yeah.
sick.
It's all crime themed soaps with like cute little pun names and stuff, and I'm working with a company to make this. Like, I can't make the soap. I don't have time to make as much soap as I would need, but I'm working with a company, and like I have samples of like all my soaps. Um and yeah, I've been working on that for the last like year-ish.
I would literally buy this. I am like, that's the classic, like, hey, here's a basic product that everyone needs.
Mm.
And the difference between why anyone would buy Dove or buy whatever random soap brand is like, it's literally just, does it have cool branding and packaging? If you told me there's a
Yeah.
Clean Getaways soap, oh, 100% I'd buy that. Do you want to know what's funny about
Clean
that?
Getaway. And what's that?
Oh my God, did you ever see what I did with my character Jesse Flint in Red Dead? I made the whole Clean Boys soap company.
Cute.
Like, it doesn't exist because he's not actually a business character. It's a giant scam. But like the character believes that he runs a business called Clean Boys Soap, and it's soap for like people out west to get clean with. So
I love that.
I will advertise your soaps for free. That sounds sick.
Yeah, and like they're all it writes itself. Like I do a lot of the stuff with chat too, but we have like Cucumber Felon and Assault and Battery and Armed Strawberry, and it's just like it's cute names like that that all have to do with little crime things. And so yeah, we've been working on that for a while now. I
Wait,
need to kind of get back to it. But
that's actually so good.
Crime of Passion Fruit. Those are
Oh
like a
my
bunch of the
God.
ones. Yeah, they're cute, right? And so Honey Laundering, that's one of my favorite ones.
I
And
love
so
honey
like
laundering.
yeah, I would be happy to have like an e-commerce store. And then I personally, one of the reasons I want to bring farmers markets back to the server is because OOC. I fucking love farmers markets. Give me a Sunday market and I'm a happy girl. So I would love to go and sell this shit at local markets and stuff. That would be a dream of just like something away from streaming, away from computers. Go hang out, go talk, go do all this stuff, sell my little soaps, have a plan for after streaming is over, whenever that might be. Just have a quaint little life selling my little soaps.
Yeah, that actually sounds amazing. I'm sold. I think you've sold
Hey, oh, thanks.
the rest of chat as well.
Customers, let's go. I'll start getting back to work on it.
Chat, any final questions before we wrap up with what I'm now doing for the end of the segments is just a shoot the shit section where we just talk about whatever we need to talk. Someone said Kyle is talking to. Okay, chat. I want to once again reiterate. Kyle had already messaged that he couldn't come today. It's for good reason. He's doing house owning stuff. We're very excited and happy for him as a result. So
Yes, he's being an adult.
Oh, people were asking what any favorite Cerberus arc or favorite RP moments. Just any is want to like drop off some of your favorite moments from the 3.0 arcs.
Oh, I have one. It's when I think like no one showed up for stuff for one day, and it was just Lang and Nancy, and he decided that the company was over. And so we spent the entire day being poor, and we went and like ran Dodo together, and then we went and we're like going to do a sanitation run, and we went and did just like all of these like super grinder jobs together. And then we ended up getting arrested for something. I think we were doing a house robbery, and then Lang committed terrorism in the hospital against Bass to get me out of a 5-month prison sentence or something. We went and robbed the vault together. Like, it was such a stupid day, and it was all just like petty crime. And you know, it was one of his monthly Cerberus is over and everything is falling apart moments, but it was very, very silly.
Was this a
Right.
question regarding 3.0 RP specifically?
No, for you, Nice, you can answer. I mean, whenever.
My memory is really bad. I remember some things with exact precision, and then other things I just completely forget. So I don't remember 99% of the arcs I've done, to be honest. But one of my all-time favorite arcs I've ever done, was an arc that it was me, Sob, and Coil. I think there was somebody else involved as well. Where it was in, I believe, 2.0 or maybe even 1.0, where I was parked outside of the hospital as Leslie and Sob was just out driving. His I guess I think his character was called Sob. I'm not sure. He worked at PDM. And he crashes into Leslie's car, like hits it a little bit, breaks the taillight. Leslie gets pissed. Sob just takes off, doesn't think much about it. And then for a month, I spend a whole month like mapping out his life and his routines and everybody he knows and where he works and all these things. And then I try to find somebody in the city with HIV, and I collect the blood, and then we do a test drive with Sob from PDM, and Coil dresses up like a goblin, and I ask Sob to take a route through an alley, and then Coil stops him in this car. I pretend to get taken hostage with Sob. We take him to like a place. And then I tell him the whole thing of like, oh yeah, you remember that one time when I saw you a month ago and you crashed into my car and you just sped off like it was nothing, like you think you're so good. And he obviously doesn't even know what I'm talking about because he didn't even notice it, right? All this shit. And he's like, and Leslie was just like, okay, yeah, you think I forget? You think I'm that stupid, huh? You know? That's why I'm gonna infect you with HIV. And then he takes up this syringe and he's like, wait, what, Leslie? This is what you're gonna do? You're gonna infect me with HIV because I crashed into your car? Are you fucking crazy? And Leslie's like, yeah, of course, like it's the logical thing to do. And then just as he's about to approach Sob, he slips on an oil slick, and the syringe flies up in the air and lands in Leslie's chest, and he injects himself with HIV. And I remember Coil's character just standing there just laughing, and then the whole room goes quiet, and then Sob says, Leslie, did you just infect yourself with HIV? And the whole arc just ends up with them just hugging it out, and they promised that they would never tell anybody that Leslie did this. And then later on, Leslie finds out that it was the wrong syringe and he doesn't have HIV, but he kept telling everybody that he has HIV because he would get free stuff. So that was such a great arc. Such a great arc.
This sounds like only something you could cook up. This legitimately sounds like only something you could cook up.
It was a crazy arc.
All right, Eagle, what do you got for us? I need to ask this question, everyone.
How can I not say Eve's Day Off?
Eve's Day Off.
Eve's Day
I was
Off,
like,
yeah.
it's gotta be.
I've watched this one.
It's just a lot of stuff happened. I feel like Eve it was a lot of stuff from a lot of people that Eve was just brought back down to reality, and she just slowly climbed back up again. And it was still hard on her, but I think it was a very good day for RP, and it was a very good arc in general.
Yeah. I remember you stay off. I still see memes about it to this day too. So awesome. Well, guys,
I remember watching that from the sidelines and I was like, damn, I gotta get in on this. It was one of the main reasons why I got back on Leslie.
That was the day Leslie came back too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Real quick. Okay, so as we wrap up here on time, I want to give you guys each chance to shout out your channel, let people know where to find you at, where you guys are going to be RPing at when you guys are typically on the server, stuff like that. So we'll do Nidas, then Kate, then Eagle. Tell the people where to find you.
Twitch.tv/Nidas. If you enjoy a VOD experience with no buffering, with local downloaded VODs, Nidas.tv/beta. the best website on the planet to watch my VOD specifically. Unmuted.
You have your own website for your VODs?
I have my own website, yes, and it's all locally downloaded onto a hard drive, so there's no loading times, chat integration, emote integration, unmuted VODs. Send it. That's it.
Do you wanna offer me a bag? I'll come stream on there.
Nope.
Okay, never mind. All right, Kate, you're up.
You can find me at twitch.tv/Kate or kate.tv. And I stream Monday through Saturdays usually, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific. We always kick off our streams with a big Cerberus meeting and then see what happens. So feel free to come and hang out and give the channel a follow.
And Eagle.
Oh, yeah. Twitch.tv/EagleEye. I stream when I can, when I have power. I changed my schedule to not be as DJing because I streamed 6 months, literally NA times. So I am back to a regular schedule. But yeah, thanks for having us, Blau.
Yeah,
Of
thank you so much.
course.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh my god, I've left out the L from Eagle Eye because there are no L's for you. Sorry, I have to retype this. I can't type. Hold on, one sec.
Nice.
Okay, my keyboard's also broken, guys. I'm missing several keys.
Okay, dude. All right.
No, it's true. All right, with the formal stuff out of the way, guys, I'm actually coming back to RP. I swear.
Surely.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
when I'm back from the Philippines, I'm doing a judge character. Actually, I'm excited for that.
Ooh.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
With the new DOJ changes and everything.
Yeah, I want to play
Spicy.
Mickey, and I had John the Broski and Nathan reach out to me to play a judge actually. So I'm going to be doing a judge character. If you guys ever saw,
Sick.
I'm basing it off of John Burkow. If you guys have ever watched the House of Parliament, he's the Speaker of the House of Parliament for a while, and he's the guy who's always like, order. He's like a super posh British guy. So yeah, I'll be a once-a-year judge. What other stuff are you guys cooking up in RP? I know you guys have space stuff coming up for Cerberus.
Yep. And we're at war with Rust right now, so I'm going to go log in to get clapped by Rust probably.
Huge.
So excited.
Huge.
I don't like to play an RP. I very rarely do. I feel like it diminishes my decision making at the time. So I just kind of roll with it and see what happens. I was asked to do a judge character as well. I said no, but I think maybe I would like to make a new character soon. I think that would be cool. But I don't know. I'll just take it as it comes.
Nice. Well, I will see you guys in the server. I promise next month I'll be around. I'll actually be returning to RP.
Right.
I promise. Yeah.
Right.
I'll see you guys.
Sure.
You guys know one of the memes about this? Be like, Blau hosts more RP podcasts than he does actually RP, which I will admit at this point is kind of fair. The only time I've RP'd in the last month was I made a character named Nathan Blau that was a live streamer and then got killed. So yeah.
Wow.
Huge.
Yeah.
Remember 7 days in a row and you get a gold star.
I'm never doing 7 days in a row. I'm someone who I can't do 7 days in a row. To be fair, like I think people also role play at different sorts of levels. I'm someone where I think I enjoy it way more if I only do it like once or twice a week. That's just who I am. You know, is what it is.
Don't forget about Lisa. She's waiting patiently.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Mickey's still trapped on an island somewhere. Yeah. I don't even know if I can play the character. Anyways, that's it for the RP podcast, guys. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Having us.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
See ya.
I think that was actually probably my favorite episode so far. And I know that's like, you know, I'm not trying to, yeah, John the Broski sucked. And the fact that Kyle wasn't there made it so much better. No. I'm just saying, I think they were just, I think people knew we were going to get some quality takes when you have those three in. So, yeah, that was great. and I was learning stories, origin things that we haven't heard before. Yeah, that was fantastic. Chat, as a reminder, if you missed part of the podcast and you want to find out where you can watch Roleplay Podcast. We started a small little channel on YouTube that we're going to be growing. We're going to be posting clips from it, some highlights from it, but this is where we post all of the full-length episodes. It is Roleplay Podcast on YouTube. We spam the link. Go and sub. You guys can watch the previous episodes. I plan to continue to build out Roleplay Podcast.